The desert world of Ravaks stretched endlessly, a land of golden sand under a sky of pale blue. The sun burned bright and hot, and the wind carried fine grains of dust across the dunes like waves across the ocean. Few travelers came to this world. Most believed it empty and lifeless, a place with no purpose. Yet beneath the surface, secrets slept that had waited for ages. On the 12th day of their search, a small human exploration team stumbled across something unusual. The leader, Myra, stood on top of a dune and gazed down at a wide expanse of stone half buried in sand. The shape was unlike any rock formation she had ever seen. The stone was too smooth, too deliberate. Straight lines cut across the surface, and carved edges peeked out from beneath layers of sand. Myra, called Jalen, a soldier assigned to protect the crew, "You see that, don't you? That is not natural." Myra nodded slowly. She was a historian by training, not a soldier, yet her heart beat fast with excitement. "This is not stone shaped by time," she replied. "This was built." The team gathered closer. Hands brushed away sand, revealing more of the structure. A wall rose, tall and ancient, its surface covered in faint markings. Symbols of spirals, circles, and waves lined the stone. They were not human letters. They belonged to a civilization that no one had yet recorded. The youngest member of the team, Ren, gasped. "It looks like a palace buried under the desert. But who could have built this on Ravaks? We thought no people ever lived here." Myra placed her hand against the carvings. The stone was cool even under the heat of the sun. She felt a deep weight in it, as if the wall itself carried memories of forgotten ages. "This is not just a palace," she whispered. "I think it is a tomb." The others stared at her, uncertain. Tombs were common in human history, but here, on a distant alien world, such a structure carried mystery beyond measure. By evening, they had uncovered more of the site. Rising from the sand were colossal statues shaped like serpents. Each serpent towered higher than the explorers themselves, carved with scales that shimmered faintly under the light. The eyes of the serpents were not stone at all but crystal, clear and unbroken despite centuries of desert storms. They faced the gate of the tomb, as if watching anyone who dared approach. Ren shivered as he stood before them. "They feel alive. As if they are looking straight into us." Jalen placed a firm hand on his shoulder. "Statues cannot harm us. They are only stone." Yet even as he said it, he felt the same strange weight in the air. The statues were more than decoration. They were guardians. Myra stepped between the two serpents and studied the gate. The doorway was sealed, though cracks lined the edges, suggesting it could open. Above it, carved into the stone, were symbols arranged in a circle. Unlike the others, these symbols glowed faintly, as if lit from within. The glow pulsed slowly, like the beat of a heart. She spoke softly, almost to herself. "A tomb guarded by stone serpents. A king lies within, perhaps. This could be a treasure of history unlike any we have ever known." Jalen frowned. "If it is a tomb, then we should show respect. Some cultures believe their kings still watch over their resting places." Myra gave him a faint smile. "Respect, yes. But we are explorers. If we walk away, the truth will remain buried. Humanity has always searched for knowledge. That is what brought us to the stars." Night fell, and the team set up camp by the tomb. The desert cooled, and the sky filled with stars brighter than any city light. Around the fire, the team spoke of what they had seen. Some were eager to enter, believing riches or advanced technology might lie inside. Others were cautious, fearing traps or curses. Ren asked the question none wished to voice. What if the serpents are not only statues? What if they were built to protect what is inside? The group fell silent. Jalen poked at the fire and said, "If that is true, then we will see. Humanity has faced guardians before, both of flesh and of stone. We will not be the first to turn back. Myra looked up at the sky. She thought of Earth, far away, and the long history of human persistence. Always curious, always reaching, never satisfied with silence. She believed this tomb was waiting for them. Not by chance, but by design. Before they rested, Myra sent a signal back to the human fleet stationed in a nearby system. Her words were simple: "We have found a buried tomb on Ravax. At its gates stand stone serpents with crystal eyes. This may be the greatest discovery of our age." The message carried through space, unseen by human eyes, unheard by alien ears, yet its echo marked the beginning of something far greater than the explorers could imagine. The wind howled across the dunes, carrying sand against the statues. For a brief moment, the crystals in the eyes of the serpents glimmered faintly under the starlight. No one noticed. The guardians waited, patient and silent, as they had for countless years. And deep within the tomb, in a chamber untouched by time, runes glowed faintly on cold walls. They pulsed once, twice, like breath awakening after long silence. The tomb had felt the signal. The tomb knew it had been found. Morning light broke across the desert of Ravax. The sun rose slowly, painting the dunes in shades of gold and red. The human explorers woke from their rest near the tomb, brushing sand from their tents and gear. The air was cool at first, but all knew it would soon turn hot under the burning sun. Myra was the first to step toward the serpents again. Their stone bodies looked even larger under the morning light, their crystal eyes glowing faintly as if they had captured the light of dawn. She studied them carefully, her mind turning over every detail. They are more than statues, she thought. They were built for a purpose. Jalen joined her, his soldier's eyes scanning the horizon. "I still do not trust this place," he said. "It feels wrong. The desert is too quiet." "It is not wrong," Myra answered, still staring at the serpents. "It is waiting." By midday, a ship descended from the skies above, its silver frame shining brightly. The human fleet had answered Myra's signal. From the ship came not only more humans but also members of the Union, an alliance of many alien races who shared the stars with humanity. Some of them had been curious about the discovery, and others had been deeply worried. One of the new arrivals was Gull, an alien scholar with a tall thin frame and skin that shimmered like polished stone. His people were known for memory, keeping histories that stretched back thousands of years. He stepped forward, his dark eyes fixed on the tomb. "You should not have opened this place," Gull said in a slow, careful voice. "It was sealed for a reason. The serpents mark it as forbidden." Ren, the youngest explorer, frowned. "Forbidden by who? This world has been empty for centuries. No one lives here." Gull shook his head. "Empty does not mean abandoned. My people carry stories of Ravax. They speak of a king who ruled long before humans traveled the stars. His tomb was guarded by stone serpents, built to test those who would enter. They say those who fail the test are never seen again." The humans listened with uneasy silence. Myra's eyes shone with curiosity. "Then the stories are true. We stand before history itself." But Gull was not finished. His voice grew lower, more urgent. "The tomb is not a place of treasure. It is a place of trial. The guardians are not meant to protect riches but to keep danger from being released. If you walk inside, you may awaken what should stay asleep." The group stood still. Jalen's hand rested on the grip of his weapon, though he did not raise it. Ren's eyes darted to the serpents, half expecting them to move. Myra finally spoke, calm but firm. "Humanity has always walked into the unknown. We do not turn back when faced with mystery. We learn, we endure, and we carry the truth forward. If this tomb holds danger, then it is better to face it than to leave it hidden. Someday, someone else will come, and they may not be prepared." Gull's gaze hardened. Or perhaps you believe only humans are prepared. Jalen stepped forward before Myra could answer. We believe in facing what comes. That is the difference. The air between them grew heavy, as if even the desert itself waited for their choice. Later that day, the team began studying the gate more closely. Tools scraped away sand from the seams of the doorway. Symbols along the stone grew brighter as sunlight touched them. Myra traced the glowing runes with her fingers, noticing that they pulsed faintly, almost like breathing. Ren pointed to the serpents. Their eyes are brighter now. They were not glowing this strong last night. Kull's voice grew sharp. That means the tomb is awake. Already you have disturbed it? Still, the humans pressed on. At last, Myra found a small indentation at the center of the gate, shaped like a circle. She placed her palm against it. The stone warmed under her touch, and the runes across the gate lit up in a pattern of flowing light. The ground trembled. Sand fell in streams from the walls. The serpent's eyes burned with light, casting long shadows across the dunes. Step back, Jalen shouted, pulling Ren away from the gate. But Myra did not move. She watched with wide eyes as the gate split slowly down the center, opening to reveal darkness beyond. A cold wind rushed out, carrying with it the scent of dust and old stone. From inside came a low sound, not quite a voice, not quite a growl. It rolled across the air like distant thunder. The humans froze, and even Kull drew back. Ren whispered, "What was that?" No one answered. The sound faded, leaving only silence. Kull turned sharply toward Myra. You see now? The tomb is not empty. You have awakened it? Myra's heart raced, but she did not look away from the open gate. It has been waiting for someone to come. Maybe us. Maybe humanity. That night, they did not sleep. Fires burned near the camp as guards kept watch on the gate. The darkness within seemed endless, as though it swallowed the firelight whole. The serpents stood silent, but their eyes glowed like twin stars in the night. Around the fire, the explorers argued. Some wanted to leave at once, fearing what lay inside. Others believed the discovery was too important to abandon. Myra listened to them all but said little. She felt the weight of choice pressing on her. Jalen sat beside her. His voice was low. You believe this is meant for us, don't you? Myra looked at the gate, her eyes filled with thought. I believe every great trial in history has called to someone. This may be ours. Jalen shook his head. Or it may be our end. As dawn began to rise again, the desert quieted. The glow of the runes faded slightly, yet the gate remained open. The tomb had revealed its doorway, waiting for the next step. Myra stood tall. Her decision was clear. Tomorrow, we go inside. Whatever lies within, we will face it. The others stared at her, uncertain, fearful, yet drawn by her certainty. Humanity had always walked paths of risk, and now the path led into the heart of a forgotten king's tomb. And in the shadows beyond the gate, deep within the tomb, the sound of movement stirred. The serpents had awakened, and their watch had truly begun. The third morning on Rabax began with silence. The desert winds had stilled, and the air carried an unnatural calm. The explorers stood before the open gate of the tomb, their eyes fixed on the dark passage beyond. The walls of stone seemed to breathe faintly with light, and the serpent's crystal eyes shone brighter than the rising sun. Myra led the way forward. She carried only a lantern and a small recorder. Jalen walked close behind her, every sense alert. Ren followed with nervous steps, glancing often at the statues as if expecting them to move. Kull, the alien scholar, brought up the rear, his expression solemn. To him, this was no adventure. It was a warning fulfilled. The group stepped across the threshold. At once, the heat of the desert faded. Inside, the air was cool and heavy, filled with the scent of ancient dust. Their footsteps echoed across the stone floor, each sound carrying deep into the hollow chambers. The first hall stretched long and wide, its ceiling held by towering pillars carved with strange patterns. The walls were covered in runes that glowed faintly, enough to light their path without need of torches. The glow pulsed slowly, like the rhythm of a sleeping heart. Ren whispered, "It feels alive." "It is alive," Cole answered, his voice quiet. "This tomb is more than stone. It is a construct of old power. Every wall, every carving, is part of its breath." Myra walked ahead, her hand brushing lightly across the glowing runes. She felt a vibration under her fingertips, a gentle hum, as if the stone itself was speaking in a language too old to be heard. "This place holds memory," she said. "It has been waiting for someone to come." As they moved deeper, the hall widened into a circular chamber. In the center rose a great stone platform shaped like a coiled serpent. Its head lifted high, mouth open as if ready to strike. Around the chamber walls, statues of smaller serpents lined the edges, their crystal eyes shining in unison. Ren's breath caught. There are more of them. The serpents did not move, but their presence filled the chamber. The explorers felt as though dozens of eyes were watching their every step. Myra approached the platform carefully. At its base were carvings unlike any they had seen outside. These symbols glowed brighter, and as she traced them with her lantern light, they shifted and changed, forming new patterns. Suddenly, a sound rumbled through the chamber. The ground shook beneath their feet. The statues along the walls shuddered, and the serpent platform stirred. Its stone body uncoiled slowly, grinding with deep echoes. Dust fell from its scales as it lifted itself higher, its crystal eyes glowing like fire. Ren stumbled back in fear. "It is alive." Jalen raised his arm to shield Myra. His heart raced, but he held his ground. "Stand firm. Do not run." The great serpent turned its gaze toward them. Its stone mouth opened, and from within came a voice. It was not the voice of flesh, but a sound carried through stone and air, deep and commanding. "Who enters the tomb of the king?" The explorers froze. The voice was clear, though heavy with ancient tone. Myra stepped forward, her voice steady though her hands trembled. "We are travelers. We come from the stars. We seek knowledge of who lies here." The serpent's eyes glowed brighter. "Travelers from the stars. You carry the mark of the younger race. You are human." Myra nodded slowly. "Yes. We are human. We mean no harm. We only wish to learn." The serpent's gaze swept across the group. "To learn is to be tested. To enter is to awaken the trial. Do you accept this burden?" Silence hung heavy in the chamber. Ren shook his head quickly. "We cannot. This is too dangerous." But Myra lifted her chin. "We accept." Jalen's hand closed into a fist at his side. He did not speak, but his eyes showed his agreement. Cole looked at Myra with disbelief. "You do not understand what you have done. These trials are not meant for the living. They are meant to break the spirit." The serpent's voice rumbled again, louder this time. "Then you shall face the first trial." The chamber darkened. The glowing runes faded, and the only light left was the burning eyes of the serpents. The air grew heavy, pressing against their chests. One by one, the explorers saw visions forming around them. Ren saw the desert dunes rise high into waves of sand, swallowing him whole. He cried out, reaching for help, but the sand closed over him in endless weight. Cole saw his people's history burn. He saw libraries turn to ash, memories lost forever, his world falling silent under an empty sky. Jalen saw himself alone on a battlefield, weapons broken, surrounded by enemies he could not name. He felt the weight of hopelessness pressing him down. Myra saw Earth itself. She saw wars, storms, hunger, and fire. She saw countless struggles, each heavier than the last. Yet as she looked, she also saw people rising again and again. She saw children learning, workers building, dreamers reaching for stars. Humanity stood tall, not because it had never fallen, but because it always rose. Myra took a step forward through the vision. Her voice rang clear, breaking the silence. We are human. We know fear. We know struggle. But we do not break. Fear is part of us, yet it does not rule us. We endure. The chamber shook again. The visions flickered and broke apart like mist. Ren gasped for air, Cole stumbled back with wide eyes, and Jalen steadied himself, sweat running down his face. The great serpent lowered its head. Its voice was softer now, almost respectful. You have faced the trial of fear. Humanity endures what others cannot. Few would stand as you have stood. Myra looked at the serpent with calm eyes. Then let us continue. We seek the truth of this tomb. The serpent's body coiled again, returning to stone. Its eyes dimmed, though not completely. The runes across the chamber lit once more, brighter than before. The voice echoed a final time. The first trial is complete. Prepare, for the second trial awaits. Only the worthy may stand before the king. The explorers stood in silence, hearts still racing from what they had seen. Ren's hands shook, and Cole's face was pale, yet Myra's eyes burned with determination. The tomb had awakened. The guardians had tested them. And though the path ahead was uncertain, one truth had already been revealed. The serpents did not guard treasure. They guarded trials. And humanity had taken the first step into proving itself worthy. The chamber grew still after the serpent's voice faded. The explorers stood together, their hearts pounding from the visions they had just faced. The glow of the runes painted the walls in soft light, but the silence felt heavier than before. It was the silence of something unfinished, a silence waiting for what came next. Ren sat on the cold stone floor with his head in his hands. His voice trembled. I saw the desert swallowing me. I felt it pressing on my chest. It was so real. I thought I would never breathe again. Jalen placed a steady hand on his shoulder. It was a trial. Nothing more. You are still breathing, Ren. You are here. But Ren shook his head. If the next trial is worse, I do not know if I can stand it. Cole spoke with a voice low and bitter. That was only the first. The second will be harder. I warned you this tomb was not meant for us. His dark eyes rested on Myra. You accepted the burden, and now we are caught in it. Myra met his gaze calmly. She felt fear like the others, but she also felt something else, a spark of determination. We are explorers. Trials are not punishment. They are tests. If the king built this place, then he wanted someone to find it. He wanted to know who was worthy. We will continue. Cole's face was stern, but he did not argue. He had seen the strength in Myra's eyes during the first trial. She had stood firm where others had nearly broken. The serpent statues along the walls shifted again. Their crystal eyes glowed, and the runes across the floor brightened. The ground trembled, and a doorway opened at the far side of the chamber. Beyond it lay another hall, darker than the one before. Myra lifted her lantern. This is the path. We go together. They stepped through the doorway. The air grew colder as they walked, and the silence deepened. The hall narrowed, its walls pressing close, carved with symbols of serpents wrapping around one another. At the end of the passage, they entered a second chamber. This one was vast, its ceiling so high that their lantern light could not touch it. In the center stood a circle of pillars, and within the circle lay a flat stone floor covered in patterns that spiraled outward like coiled snakes. The runes here glowed brighter than any they had seen so far. As the group entered the circle, the floor lit up, and the chamber shook. The runes formed new shapes under their feet, twisting into lines that connected like a web. From the pillars rose beams of light, and once again a voice filled the chamber. You have faced the shadow of fear. Now you face the weight of strength. To walk further, you must prove you can endure not only in mind but in body. Will you stand or will you fall? Jalen's jaw tightened. He felt the challenge in the words. This is my place, he muttered, readying himself. The floor beneath them shifted. Stone rose from the ground, forming shapes that grew taller, sharper, and heavier. In moments, 4 figures stood before them. They were serpents shaped from stone, smaller than the great guardian in the first chamber but still taller than any human. Their crystal eyes glowed with pale fire. Ren stepped back in alarm. They move. They are alive. The serpents uncoiled slowly. Their stone bodies scraped the floor as they circled the explorers. The voice echoed again. Show your strength. Show your will. Only those who endure may continue. The serpents struck forward, not with the speed of flesh but with the weight of stone. Jalen leapt aside, pulling Myra with him. The floor shook as a serpent's body crashed where they had stood. Jalen drew his weapon, though he knew it would do little against stone. Still, he stood firm, shouting to the others. Do not scatter. Stay together. Watch for openings. Ren trembled but obeyed. Myra's mind raced. These were not simple statues. They moved with purpose, as if testing each motion. She remembered the serpent's words. This was not a battle for victory. It was a trial to see if they could endure. Do not fight to destroy them, she called. We must outlast them. The serpents struck again. Jalen dodged, rolling across the stone and rising to his feet. His body ached, but he did not slow. He raised his weapon and struck against a serpent's side. The blow left only a shallow mark, but it forced the creature to turn its head. Kull moved with surprising speed, pulling Ren away from another serpent's strike. His face was strained. Hold your ground, human. You wanted this trial, now stand in it. Myra focused on the patterns beneath their feet. The glowing runes pulsed each time a serpent struck. She realized they were counting time. The trial was not endless. If they endured long enough, the chamber would decide. Stay alive, she shouted. Hold them off. We only need to last. The serpents pressed harder. Jalen's arm grew heavy, but he refused to yield. He took a glancing strike that sent him crashing to one knee, yet he pushed himself up again, teeth clenched. His body screamed with pain, but his spirit burned stronger. Ren found courage in Jalen's defiance. He picked up a piece of broken stone from the floor and hurled it at a serpent's head. It did little, but the act itself gave him strength. We will not fall, he cried. The chamber trembled as if listening. The runes glowed brighter, the light spreading across the floor. The serpents slowed their movements, their bodies grinding to a halt. One by one, they lowered their heads and froze back into stone. Silence filled the chamber once more. Then the voice spoke again, deep and steady. You have endured the trial of strength. Others would have fallen. You rise. Humanity does not bend. The runes on the floor flared with bright light, and the pillars pulsed as though in acknowledgement. The doorway at the far side of the chamber opened, revealing another dark hall waiting beyond. Jalen leaned against a pillar, breathing heavily. His body was sore and bruised, but his eyes were steady. Myra stood beside him, her face calm but filled with fire. Ren's hands still shook, but there was a new resolve in his gaze. Even Kull, though doubtful, looked at them with something close to respect. The serpent's voice faded, leaving them in silence again. But the silence no longer felt empty. It felt like a pause before something greater. Myra looked at the dark passage ahead. She spoke softly but with certainty. We have faced fear. We have faced strength. Whatever awaits us next, we will continue. And deep in the tomb, beyond the halls and chambers, something stirred once more. The king's resting place was not far now, and the final judgment waited for those who dared approach. The passage ahead stretched long and narrow, its walls carved with flowing lines that resembled rivers of stone. The air grew colder as the explorers moved forward, and each step echoed like a drum beat in the silence. They had faced the trial of fear, they had faced the trial of strength, and now they felt the weight of what lay beyond. Ren walked close to Myra, his hands trembling slightly. He tried to keep his voice steady. "How many trials do you think there are?" Myra glanced at the glowing symbols on the walls. "I do not know. The king who built this tomb must have wanted only the strongest, the most determined, to reach him. Each step is meant to test us." Jalen walked behind them, his body aching from the battle with the stone serpents. Still, he stood tall, refusing to show weakness. "Then we will pass every test. If we stop now, all we have endured will mean nothing." Kull, the alien scholar, walked in silence. His eyes studied the walls, reading the old symbols with quiet care. Finally, he spoke. "I believe there are 3 trials. The first was of the mind. The second was of the body. The third will be of the heart. It will not test your fear or your strength. It will test your choice." His words lingered in the air like a shadow. At last, the passage opened into another chamber, larger than the ones before. This chamber was shaped like a circle, its floor divided into 3 paths that met at the center. At the heart of the circle stood a great stone altar, and above it loomed another serpent, even larger than those they had seen before. Its wings spread wide across the chamber, though they were carved from stone. Its eyes glowed with a light that shifted slowly from blue to gold. The serpent's voice filled the chamber, deep and steady. "You have endured fear. You have endured strength. Now you face the trial of choice. This is the hardest trial of all. For strength without wisdom is hollow, and fear conquered without judgment is blind." The explorers stood together, uncertain. The serpent lowered its massive head toward them, and the runes across the chamber walls lit up in 3 colors: red, blue, and white. Each color marked a different path across the floor. The serpent spoke again. "3 paths lie before you. One leads to knowledge but leaves you with nothing else. One leads to safety but leaves the tomb forever closed. One leads to the king himself, but it carries danger so great that only the worthy can survive. Choose. Only one path may you take." The group fell into silence. The sound of their own breath seemed loud in the stillness. Ren was the first to speak, his voice breaking. "We should take the path of safety. We have already seen too much. We can return to the fleet, share what we found, and leave this place sealed as it was meant to be." Jalen shook his head sharply. "No. Safety is no answer. If we turn back now, we dishonor everything we have faced. We must continue. If the king is truly beyond that path, then it is our duty to reach him." Ren stepped back, fear in his eyes. "And if we die? What then?" Myra placed a hand on his shoulder. Her voice was gentle. "If we die, then we die knowing we tried. Humanity has never chosen silence when truth lies ahead. That is what makes us who we are." Kull watched them with careful eyes. "You speak of humanity as if you alone are meant for this tomb. Do you not see? The tomb was built long before your kind reached the stars. It may not be for you at all." Myra met his gaze without hesitation. "And yet here we stand. We passed the trial of fear. We passed the trial of strength. Perhaps others came before us and failed. Perhaps the tomb has waited all this time because it was meant for us." The serpent's eyes glowed brighter, as if listening to her words. The group turned back to the 3 paths. Red glowed with a warm fire, blue with a soft calm, and white with a steady brilliance. Each one seemed to call in a different way. Ren whispered, "Red looks dangerous. Blue looks peaceful. White feels final. Jalen's voice was firm. The path of the king will not be the easy one. We must choose white. Ren's eyes widened. You cannot be serious. The serpent said danger lies that way. Danger is the measure of worth, Jalen answered. It has always been so. The argument grew. Ren pressed for safety, begging them to turn back. Jalen demanded courage, saying they had come too far to stop. Kul warned of old tales, saying that arrogance had doomed many races before. Myra stood between them, her heart heavy. She closed her eyes and thought of Earth, of the long history of her people. She thought of the struggles, the victories, the failures, and the dreams. She thought of why they had come to the stars at all, not for safety, not for comfort, but for the search of truth. At last, she opened her eyes. Her voice was calm and certain. We choose the white path. Ren shook his head. His voice cracked with fear. You will kill us all. Myra placed her hand gently on his arm. You do not have to follow. No one is forced. This is the trial of choice. Each of us must decide. Ren looked between her and the glowing paths. Tears welled in his eyes. I cannot. I choose safety. He stepped toward the blue path, his body trembling but his choice clear. Kul remained silent for a long moment. Then he nodded slowly. I walk with you, Myra. I will see what the king wishes to show. My people value memory, and if this is to be remembered, I must witness it. Jalen stepped firmly beside Myra. I have chosen from the start. White is the only path worthy of us. Myra placed her hand over her chest, feeling the weight of their choices. She turned back to Ren. May you find peace, whatever path you walk. The serpent's voice filled the chamber again. So the choice is made. Each has chosen their way. The tomb accepts your decision. The blue path opened like a gentle river, leading Ren away toward a soft glow. The white path flared with brilliance, and a doorway appeared at its end. The red path dimmed and faded, vanishing into darkness. Ren walked slowly into the blue light, glancing back once before the glow swallowed him. Myra, Jalen, and Kul stepped forward into the white, their hearts heavy but their resolve strong. As the doorway closed behind them, the serpent's voice echoed once more. Only the few who choose the harder road may stand before the king. The path of safety is simple. The path of truth is never so. The chamber faded into silence. The explorers had been divided. Some had chosen peace, but others had chosen to walk into the unknown. The tomb itself seemed to wait with breathless patience, for the greatest trial was still ahead. The white path stretched forward like a ribbon of light, winding through the darkness of the tomb. Myra led the way, her lantern casting a steady glow on the carved walls. Jalen and Kul followed close behind, their footsteps echoing softly against the stone floor. Every step carried weight, and every shadow seemed to watch them as if alive. Myra felt the weight of choice on her shoulders. The trial of fear and the trial of strength had tested their minds and bodies. Now, she realized, the path ahead would test their spirit. Every step was a question, every shadow a challenge. Jalen spoke quietly. This tomb is unlike anything we have faced. Each step feels deliberate. It is as if the king designed the halls to see how far a traveler could endure. Kul nodded. Memory and endurance are what the tomb seeks. But there is something else. I feel it. The tomb responds to the spirit of those who enter. The hall widened, opening into a chamber larger than any they had seen before. In the center stood a massive stone gate, covered in carvings of serpents coiled around one another. The runes glowed brighter than before, and their patterns shifted constantly, as if alive. Myra stepped closer. This must be the gateway to the king himself, she said. We have come this far. We cannot turn back now. Jalen placed a hand on her shoulder. Whatever waits beyond this gate, we face it together. Cole studied the carvings with intense focus. The designs are not only decoration. They are a test. They will respond to what they see in us. The group moved closer to the gate. As they approached, the carvings stirred. The serpent's eyes glowed, and stone bodies shifted slightly, as if sensing their presence. Then, without warning, a beam of light shot from the center of the gate, illuminating the chamber. The air shimmered, and a voice spoke, deep and clear. You have come far, humans. You have faced fear and strength. Now you must show what makes your kind unique. Myra's heart raced. What does it want from us? She asked softly. The spirit of humanity, the voice replied. Creatures of logic may fail, creatures of memory may hesitate, but humans endure in ways others cannot. Show this now. The chamber trembled as walls of stone rose from the floor, forming obstacles in every direction. They were puzzles of balance and timing, walls that shifted, floors that tilted, and paths that disappeared at the wrong step. Jalen assessed the obstacles quickly. We cannot rush. Every movement must count. Watch each other. We move as one. Myra nodded. Remember what we have learned. Fear and strength are only part of the journey. The tomb wants to see how we think, how we adapt. They began moving through the obstacles carefully. Myra stepped first, testing the floor and finding balance. Jalen followed, adjusting his steps to help her maintain footing. Cole moved with surprising agility, using his long limbs to reach distant ledges. The stone walls shifted constantly, forming new challenges. A platform would tilt suddenly, and they had to leap to the next. A passage would close behind them, forcing them to find another route. Each obstacle was designed to test coordination, patience, and clever thinking. Ren's words echoed in Myra's mind. Some travelers might have chosen safety, but humans did not turn back from the unknown. They adapted. They learned. They endured. Every challenge was an opportunity to show resilience, and Myra felt a spark within her, the spark of humanity that refused to be broken. At one point, a massive stone serpent rose from the floor, blocking their path. Its crystal eyes glowed with a steady light, and its stone body coiled around them. Jalen stepped forward. We cannot fight it directly. We must outthink it. Myra looked around quickly. She noticed patterns in the serpent's movements, subtle pauses and shifts in the runes on the walls. She pointed. Wait for the moment when the light dims. That is when we step forward. They followed her lead. As the serpent lunged, the runes pulsed, and they moved in perfect coordination, slipping past the stone guardian without harm. The serpent froze, then lowered its head, as if acknowledging their cleverness. Cole spoke with admiration. Humans do not only endure. They create solutions in ways others cannot. That is why you survive where others might fail. The path narrowed again, and the obstacles became more complex. They faced gaps too wide to jump, walls too high to climb, and floors that seemed to vanish beneath their feet. Yet every time, Myra's quick thinking, Jalen's steadfast courage, and Cole's careful observation carried them forward. After what felt like hours, they reached the final chamber. It was enormous, circular, and empty except for a single pedestal at its center. On the pedestal lay a golden key carved from stone, glowing faintly. Around the pedestal were the largest serpents they had yet seen, their bodies coiled like towers. Their eyes shone with brilliant light, and the runes across the walls flared. The voice spoke again. This is the final trial. Only those who understand the essence of humanity may claim the key. It is not power that makes you worthy. It is the spark within you, the spark that refuses to yield even in the face of impossible odds. Myra stepped forward, her hand reaching for the key. The serpents stirred, moving slightly to block her. Yet she did not hesitate. She thought of Earth, of the countless generations who had built, explored, and dreamed despite obstacles. She thought of Jalen and Cole, standing with her, supporting her without question. Her hand touched the key. It was warm to the touch, and as she lifted it, the serpents slowly lowered their heads. The light in their eyes softened, and the chamber became still. The voice spoke one last time. The spark of humanity burns bright. You have endured what others could not. You have adapted, persevered, and risen above every challenge. You are worthy. Jalen clapped Myra on the shoulder, a rare smile on his face. We did it. We survived the trial. Cole looked at them both, eyes shining. I have seen civilizations rise and fall. But what I have witnessed here is remarkable. Humans carry a spark that others do not. It is not strength alone. It is creativity, courage, and determination combined. Myra nodded. We only reached this point because we trusted one another. That is the essence of humanity. We do not face challenges alone. The chamber trembled once more, and the pedestal sank into the floor. A doorway opened at the far side, glowing softly. Beyond it lay a long hall, leading to the resting place of the king himself. The final trial was complete, and the tomb now welcomed those who had proven worthy. Myra, Jalen, and Cole exchanged a glance. Each of them knew the path ahead would be even more difficult, yet they also knew that the spark of humanity within them would guide the way. Together, they stepped forward, ready to face the last challenge, the king himself. The hall stretched before them like a river of stone. The walls were carved with stories of long-forgotten battles and ancient rulers. Each step echoed loudly, reminding Myra, Jalen, and Cole that they were now close to the heart of the tomb. Their lanterns barely reached the ceiling, but the glow from the runes along the walls guided their way. Myra led the way, holding the stone key tightly in her hand. It felt heavier than its size suggested, as if it carried the weight of all the trials they had passed. Jalen walked close behind her, eyes scanning every shadow. Cole followed, moving carefully, but his expression held awe. They had endured fear, strength, and choice, and now the final challenge awaited. At last, they entered the king's chamber. It was enormous, circular, and filled with statues of serpents coiled around pillars and walls. In the center, upon a raised platform, lay the sarcophagus of the ancient king. The stone was carved with exquisite detail, showing the king in regal attire, his eyes closed as if in eternal rest. Around the sarcophagus, light glowed faintly, illuminating the chamber in a soft, golden hue. The voice of the guardian serpents filled the chamber once more. You have walked the path few could endure. You have faced fear, strength, and choice. Only now shall the king judge your worth. Myra stepped closer to the sarcophagus. Her heart pounded in her chest. What must we do? She whispered. Show your spirit, the voice replied. Not through weapons, nor through force, nor even through cleverness alone. Show what it means to endure, to strive, to rise above what others cannot. The runes along the walls pulsed, and the serpent's eyes shone brighter. Then, the sarcophagus began to shift. Slowly, the lid slid open, and a figure rose, taller and grander than any human or alien. The king himself emerged, his form carved from stone yet glowing with an inner light. His eyes opened, revealing a wisdom that spanned centuries. Myra and the others fell silent. The presence of the king was overwhelming. His gaze swept across them, as if measuring every thought, every heartbeat. You have come far, travelers, the king spoke. His voice echoed in their minds as well as the air. Many have tried, many have failed. But you have shown qualities that are rare among your kind. Jalen stepped forward, his voice firm but respectful. We came to learn, not to claim. We only seek to understand the knowledge you left behind. The king nodded slowly. Understanding alone is not enough. You have shown courage, patience, and ingenuity. You have trusted one another and stood together. That is what makes your kind remarkable. You are not just survivors. You are creators, dreamers, and explorers. That is the spark of humanity. Kull's eyes widened. He had witnessed civilizations rise and fall, but he had never seen a species endure in this way. I have studied your people, he said softly, but what I see here surpasses anything I imagined. Myra held the stone key tightly. The trials were not meant to harm us, she said. They were meant to teach us. We learned that fear can be faced, strength can be found, and choice defines who we are. Humanity endures because it does not give up. The king's gaze softened. Exactly. The trials were created not only to protect my resting place but to reveal the worth of those who seek knowledge. Many are strong, many are clever, but few endure as you have. The serpents along the walls lowered their heads, their eyes dimming slightly, as if in approval. The glow of the runes became steady, calm, and welcoming. The tomb had accepted them. The king extended a hand. Take what you need to carry forward. Not treasure, for that is fleeting. Take knowledge, understanding, and the spark that made you worthy. Share it, so that your people may rise higher, and so that the trials of the past may guide the future. Myra stepped forward and placed the key on the sarcophagus. The stone shimmered and dissolved, revealing a hidden chamber beneath. Within lay scrolls, crystals, and devices of knowledge beyond imagination. The designs of stars, maps of worlds, and lessons of civilizations long gone filled the chamber. Jalen looked around in wonder. This is more than history. This is a legacy. Kull moved closer, his hands hovering over the ancient devices. These hold knowledge that could change entire civilizations. And yet it was reserved only for those who endured. Myra turned to the king. We will honor this gift. We will learn, remember, and share it wisely. The king's form began to fade, returning to stone, but his eyes glowed one last time. Remember this lesson: strength alone is not enough. Fear alone is not enough. Choice alone is not enough. Only together, with spirit, courage, and determination, does your kind achieve greatness. Humans endure where others might falter. The chamber fell silent. The glow of the runes dimmed slightly, but the light of understanding remained in their minds. The tomb no longer felt threatening. Instead, it felt alive with knowledge, respect, and the quiet presence of the king who had waited centuries for the worthy. Myra, Jalen, and Kull left the chamber slowly, carrying what they had learned and experienced. Each step was lighter than before, though their minds were full of questions and wonder. They had faced the ultimate trial, and they had passed. Outside, the desert of Ravak stretched under the pale light of distant stars. The stone serpents stood still once more, their eyes reflecting the rising sun. Yet somehow, the explorers knew that the tomb would never truly sleep. It had recognized them, and it had acknowledged the spark of humanity that refused to fade. Myra looked up at the sky. We came for knowledge, she said softly. And we found more than we could imagine. The tomb, the king, the trials, they were all part of showing what it means to endure. Jalen nodded. We were tested in ways we could not have expected. But we proved ourselves. Humanity stands tall, even in places where others would falter. Kull's voice was quiet, thoughtful. I have seen many things, but what I have witnessed here is remarkable. Humans carry a spark unlike any other. That is why you endure. Ren, who had chosen the safer path earlier, watched them from a distance. Though he had not faced the king directly, he felt the impact of their journey. He realized that courage was not always about following the most difficult path. Sometimes it was about allowing others to show what they could achieve. The explorers returned to their ship, carrying knowledge, hope, and a story that would be told for generations. The king's tomb had accepted them. The tomb had shared its wisdom. Humanity had proven that its spirit could face any challenge, endure any trial, and rise beyond fear. As the ship lifted from the sands of Ravax, Myra looked down at the desert below. The stone serpents glimmered faintly in the sunlight, watching silently, knowing that their purpose had been fulfilled. The tomb had been found, the king had judged, and humanity had stood tall. And in the endless stars beyond, a message began to spread among those who listened carefully: humans endure. Humans rise. And humans carry a spark that will never fade. The tomb waited quietly once more, patient for the next who would walk its path. But for now, it was silent, its guardians resting, knowing that the worthy had passed. Myra, Jalen, and Cole looked at each other, understanding that the story of the king and his tomb was only the beginning. Humanity had proven itself, and the universe would never forget the spark that they carried.